And what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Purple and Gold Bar Show. I am your host, Mr. Purple and Gold Bars, at your service. Today we are back at it with our weekly picks live. Last week, I think we're starting to find that the NFL is starting to get normalized or something, because I feel like I got a lot of picks right last week. I actually ended up winning the week on the Real Sports podcast. And so I think that going forward, I think it might be a little bit more spot on. So we'll keep at it, and going 11-5 or 11-3 or whatever it was, 11-3, I think it was. Either way, 14 games last weekend. So looking pretty solid. We're gonna get right at it here. Let's get the show intro going, and then we're gonna go through these picks one by one just for you guys. There you have it. Thank you so much for joining me here. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. We are on the road to 500 subscribers. We're almost halfway there, just 11 away. Hopefully we can get that done here as soon as possible. Hopefully we can get the whole 500 done before the end of the year, the calendar year, that is. So let's get right to it, guys. There's nothing left to do it but to do it, you know? So we're going to get right into it with Thursday night football. We got the Texans versus the Bills on Thursday night football. Now, this is a little bit of an interesting matchup because good defenses have put a little bit of a wrench in Josh Allen, but then at the same time, he's also gone video game mode, especially last week at times, right? With those a few weeks back with these crazy design quarterback runs, or just him deciding to take off and coming up with some massive rush yards. Last week with 6 total touchdowns, 3 through the air, 3 through the ground. But they have a little bit of a weakness here. Sometimes if a team can really get to them and kind of throw them off their rhythm here, they can struggle at times. We saw the Patriots take the first shocking win away from them in the season. Then we saw the Falcons, and then the Dolphins. Three teams of varying different skills and stages in their teams' current run or whatever, or rebuild, whatever you want to call it, right? So we got the Patriots looking outstanding. Not a surprise now that they beat the Bills. And then the Falcons, a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde team. Some weeks good, some weeks bad, and now they're going to have to rely on good old Kirk Cousins after post-Achilles injury. So I don't know if he still has it. Some say that he might not, but this time he's going to have a full week of practice. So maybe the Falcons might do something this week. But right now, we got Thursday night football. We got the Texans in this interesting situation because they're looking pretty good, regardless of who's at their quarterback position this year. They've had some ups and downs. Let's be real. That's why they're 5-5. But there's a lot of promise, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And when C.J. Stroud plays great, the team does pretty decent, and when Davis Mills is able to elevate to a similar level, they got some fight into them, right? So it's going to be an interesting game. Can that Texans defense really take it to Josh Allen and the Bills and really kind of make it a knockdown, drag out game where the Bills just can't get into their style of football, where they can dominate and do the things that they do best? This defense might be able to have that. Their pass rush is interesting, and if their O-line is able to give Davis Mills all the right time and he makes the right decisions, it might be a bit of a tricky game for the Bills. But I have the Bills as one of my top 10 teams in the league right now. I believe they're sitting at 7. And you know what? It's just too hard to bet against them. So I'm going to take the Bills here. It might be a little bit closer than people think. Some people might be thinking, this is going to be an easy blowout, 20 points, 3 scores, something like that. But you know what? I'm going to say I don't think it's going to be more than a 10-point victory here. So I could easily seeing it being a 3-point victory, or 10 or a 7, even a 10-point victory. But I don't really know. I think the Texans have a little bit too much heart, and they are fighting for some relevance here in the NFL. And maybe if they can turn the season around and finish off strong, you never know what they can accomplish, right? So interesting matchup, but I'm going to take the Bills on Thursday night football on Prime Video. in Houston, even though that also might be a reason why the Texans might be keeping this game a little bit closer than preventing a blowout, let's say, because they are at home, so they're going to have a little bit of that energy from the crowd, right? Moving on to Sunday, starting at the 1 o'clock games. We got the Jets versus the Ravens. Now, the Jets are a little bit of a wily team. You know, we've seen them stay close in certain times, but they've never been able to really complete anything. Justin Fields has been struggling quite a bit, and it is kind of what it is. They've gone ahead and had a little bit of a fire sale at the trade deadline, and it looks like after that they came out a little bit more inspired. You know, maybe they have a feeling like maybe these young guys are finally feeling they got a chance, an opportunity to shine, and maybe that's what's going on there. I'm not entirely sure. But can I bet against the Ravens? Even though I think the Ravens are still going to struggle, I don't think their defense is as great as anybody wants to give them credit to. I like Kyle Hamilton. He's a great player. I just don't think they're even a top 12 defense in which they would need to have in order to finish out the year and make the playoffs and then do a good playoff run. I think that now that we're getting into the thick of it, once they face some of the good teams on their schedule, it might be a little bit difficult for them. But in this matchup, regardless of what's going on here, I think the Ravens are definitely going to have this game in the bag. Potentially maybe probably just a 10-point win. I don't think Lamar's going to decide to throw the cape on today or this Sunday, because I feel like he's going to have to decide whether to kind of go to that level. I don't think he needs to beat this team, so why put himself in a risk? Because if he gets injured, then the rest of the season's over. So I'm going to give it to the Ravens. I think they're overall a better team, and so the Ravens are going to come away with a nice maybe not an easy win, but a convincing win. I don't think the Jets are just going to roll over, but they're not. They don't have anything. Let's be real. So we're going to take the Ravens over the Jets. Moving on to the Steelers versus the Bears in not Ford Field, in Soldier Field. So we got the Steelers after having a pretty decent game last week. They're going to have Mason Rudolph starting over Aaron Rodgers as far as it looks like right now. I'm going to also gamble that that's going to be the situation, because I don't think that, even though Aaron Rodgers' broken wrist is on his non-throwing hand, I don't think it's going to be I don't think they're going to put that at risk, especially against a team that I think they feel like should be an easy win for them. The Chicago Bears are on a last place schedule, so their record might be a little bit deceiving. Every single good team that they've faced has given them a run for their money, and they haven't looked like that world beater team. And the Steelers' pass rush and secondary is pretty decent, so they can give them a run for their money here. Now, both teams have some strengths, right? The Bears are one of the best rushing teams in the league, but if you put it on Caleb Williams, he kind of struggles at times, right? And that's something that the Steelers can definitely do. The Steelers coming into this game, there's been a lot of things said, ups and downs, rust, whatever it is, but they have been a pretty solid team regardless of the flaws that they might have. Now, that jumbo package, that triple package where they got like 1,000 pounds lined up over their tackle with their massive tight end, I think might be a bit of a difficult task for this Bears defense. Now, the Bears defense is definitely quite injured. I know they're getting some of their players back this week, but it might not be enough, and you never know. That might be on snap counts, right? So I'm going to take the Steelers here in a close one. Maybe a 3-point game, but I feel like it's just going to be a 7-point win here. Close game nonetheless. I wouldn't be surprised if it went either way, but I feel like the Steelers overall are a bit of a better team than the Bears, so I think they should be able to win this one and end up both these teams at the same 7-4 record. Moving on to the Patriots and the Bengals. This is going to be a bit of a fun game because I think a lot of people are going to be just outright picking the Patriots, and I am too. I'm not going to lie. I don't think they're going to be losers or anything like that, but this kind of smells like a little bit of a trap game, a little classic. Oh, it's just the Bengals. We might overlook them, and they might do a little bit more than expected, but I feel like Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels, their experience in situational football might once they start seeing the Bengals try to come out of nowhere on them, I think they'll be able to shut that down pretty easily. Now the Bengals, they got one of the two best receivers or one of the best receiving cores in the league, probably top three, and they can be dangerous if you let them do what they do, right? If you just give Joe Flacco the time and they just play some backyard football out there, they can easily cut you up and shred you up between Higgins and Jamar Chase. But I just remembered Jamar Chase is suspended, so even more of a difficult outing for the Bengals, but kind of leads more into that trap game kind of feel, like where, they're so hobbled up, they're so this, they're so that, just like when the Bengals faced the Steelers after trading for Joe Flacco. Nobody gave them credit, and then they ended up winning, right? So I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. I think the Patriots are too good of a team. I think Travion Henderson is going to be too much for that Bengals defense, and then Drake May is just going to pick that secondary apart. So I think it's going to be a big win here for the Patriots, although there is a little bit of that stink of potential trap game here with the Bengals. I'm not going to buy into that, and I think that the Patriots are still too good of a team, even though they're young and they have the young quarterback and they're still needing to gain experience. I think they're going to do. The Bengals might shock a little bit here, put up a decent amount of points in a loss. So I'm going to give the Patriots at least a 2-score win, regardless. I feel like maybe the first half might be close. The Bengals might stay with it, but then the Patriots are just going to hit that next gear and just leave the Bengals in the dust. Moving on to Lions versus Giants. Now the Giants, it's been no secret on this channel that I definitely have a bit of a love for or affinity for the Giants, because they remind me of my Vikings team when we were in that Pat Shurmur / Kevin Stefanski era, where we didn't have anybody in between Mike Zimmer and the hire of KOC, and we just had a whole bunch of raw talent with no direction, right? And now they're even directionless now that they've let go of their coach, and we're only going to see what they're at. Plus, they're dealing with a bunch of injuries, right? So it's going to be a little bit harder and harder to pick them. Now, they have been the team that I like to pick on upsets, and they definitely made me proud on the Chargers pick as well as the Eagles pick, the first game of the Eagles pick. And I feel like that second game, they may have made it a real good game and actually stole that one if Cam Scatterbo hadn't gotten injured, because when he's on the field, regardless if it's a 2-yard run or a 10-yard run, whatever it is, that sideline goes crazy after they see him run the way that he does. He just tends to light a fire under that team. And when they're motivated and they're amped up like that, they come up with some big plays. Not to mention that defense, that interior pass rush with Dexter Lawrence, and their linebacking crew is pretty decent, right? So they can really put a wrench in some teams. I know the Lions are struggling a little bit, but I don't think their offense is that in that jeopardy of being able to be shut down. It's different when it's the Eagles, where their offense has been mediocre at times, and they have been shut down by good defensive teams. The Lions, I feel like their issue is more so on the defensive side, dealing with all the injuries and whatnot. I think they had 5 total starters out on defense last week, which made a big factor. And then when you put it on Jared Goff and you make it a big game, he tends to crumble. But I just don't know if the Giants can do that. The Lions are going to be at home, and they really have to turn things around in order for them to salvage a playoff berth. And I think that this is the type of team that the Lions are going to be looking forward to, and looking to kind of do that same old thing that they do, come out with an early lead and just start blowing them out, just kind of pile on the points. That's their style. A lot of things didn't go right last week. Dan Campbell, second game calling plays, but you know what? Sometimes, first week, everybody was saying that he was the greatest thing since sliced bread when it came to play calling, and then the next week he kind of crashed, and it's growing pains. I don't know if Dan Campbell has ever called plays ever, and so sometimes in those situations and situational awareness, it becomes difficult or very muddy to decide. On top of the fact, when you have a defensive coordinator on the other side making it harder for you to make the calls that you make, can really make things difficult. But I think he'll do better. I don't think he's going to be all time. I don't think he's going to be one of the greatest play callers. I don't think he's going to be one of the worst play callers in the league. I think he's going to do good this week. I think the Giants are going to give him a lot of easy decisions to make. And once he gets a lead, I think it's going to be a little bit easier for him to play call in regards to when it's a close game. Moving on to the Vikings versus Packers. Now, both teams are flawed for different reasons. Last year going into the season, I said, hey, both of these teams are essentially the same team. We're in just different areas of that path towards becoming a playoff caliber team. So when it comes to us, last year it was more like we have a solid roster, but we had a question mark at quarterback. And then with the Packers, it was consistency and running game, all these things. But they brought in Josh Jacobs, and he did very well last year, right? So, and then can Jordan Love find that next gear and actually become elite, unlike the hype behind him, right? And this year we're seeing a lot of those issues kind of boiling up. They've had injuries, of course, but they have been struggling here and there. And our Vikings team, we know they're a solid roster, an amazing defense, great all-around offensive weapons, but we're limited by the growing pains of our rookie quarterback. But all the flashes, like I said, going into the season, with J.J. McCarthy, I think the roster is going to be good enough to keep us in games, and it's just going to be all about how many times J.J. McCarthy can put enough good stuff on the field in order to come away with wins. Last week and the last 2 weeks, he almost completed the comeback once against the Ravens. And then last week he technically did, except for our special teams and defense kind of let us down. The defense was extremely tired after giving him so much time of possession, right? But it is what it is, and the Vikings are a team that can literally stay and hang in it with any team in the league. So I feel like this is going to be an extremely close game, probably a low-scoring game. So it's basically going to be a coin flip. Both teams are struggling in different ways, and I think that each team is uniquely capable of taking advantage of those weaknesses, right? So the pass rush from the Packers is pretty decent, so they can give JJ less time to make the decisions because he's going to need to have great protection in order to give him the time that he needs. And the Vikings, that defense can really put it on Jordan Love. We're really good at forcing picks from him. He gets that pressure in his face and just can't help himself throwing interceptions as the pass rush comes in. So I feel like it's going to be a coin flip of a game. I'm going to take the Vikings here on an upset win. The Packers are just reeling. They've lost Tucker Kraft. They've lost a bunch of players here that are really crucial for the way that their offense works. So both teams struggling. Is going to be a bit of a struggle fest for both teams, and that's what's going to make it a close game. And I'm going to take my Vikings over the Packers. Coming up to the game of the week, I think this is going to be a really, really, really good game. I think it's going to be one of those situations where a lot of people are going to be left feeling like, oh, those are the Chiefs that I know. Like, this is what I've been saying. They're that good, right? They just beat the Colts, an 8-2 team, and then I'm going to all on the other side, the Colts are going to be like, hey, we're relevant. We're here. I know Danny Dimes kind of threw away a couple games there for us and really looked bad on one, but we're not going to allow that to happen. We believe in our guy, and I think it's going to be one of those games where I don't think the defense is strong enough to be able to put it on Patrick Mahomes and make it that type of game where he struggles. But I feel like both offenses are going to be working really well, and I think it might turn into a bit of a shootout. With all that being said, I feel like at the very end of the game, the Chiefs might be the ones that situationally and with veteran decision making and whatnot might be able to steal a game away from these Colts here. So I'm going to take the Chiefs in a shootout here. I'm not sure how high, but I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I'm really excited for this game. And I'm curious to see what happens when Steve Spagnuolo puts it on the Colts offense, if they can shut down that running game, if they can make it so that Daniel Jones kind of reverts, back to Giants Daniel Jones like the Steelers were able to do. But I feel like it's going to be a little bit of some of that. I think they're going to have some success on defense, but I think Daniel Jones is going to definitely fight through it. That's why I think it's going to be a heck of a game, and I'm going to pick the Chiefs in this one. The Seahawks over the Titans, that's an easy one to pick right off the bat. The Titans are not a great team. They're struggling. They have a lot of raw talent, no direction, and they haven't really done a great job of developing Cam Ward. Every single time I watch him play, although he throws an extremely nice ball, Sometimes it's his footwork, sometimes it's decision making, sometimes he just stares down receivers. But I like the way that he scrambles. I like the intangibles that he has. I like the potential that he has. But I can't pick the Titans here over the Seahawks. They don't have a showstopper defense that's going to put it on Sam Darnold and force him into a bunch of picks. I think it's just going to be one of those games where at the end of the day we're going to see 44 to like 6, something like that. It's just going to be a bunch of haymakers thrown by the Seahawks, and at the end of the day, we're going to see a crumpled Titans team struggling through this game, and it's going to be hard to watch if you're a Titans fan. And a bit of a pick-me-up for the Seahawks fan after last week when they saw Sam Darnold throwing all those picks, because I'm sure now a lot of those fan base a lot of the Seahawks fan base is realizing why the Vikings moved on from Sam. Because it's going to take a couple years. He needs to show growth in these type of games, and I feel like at the end of the year, if something's on the line, position-wise, seeding-wise, whatever, divisional-wise, I think that's when we're going to see him revert a little bit. I just don't think he's going to collapse this year, like I've been saying all year. I don't think he's going to collapse and be as bad as he was last year against the Lions or the Rams. I just think he's going to be mediocre. Right, so which is a step in the right direction. And I think he needs a couple years in big game situations, in dealing and fighting through those and getting that playoff experience, so then he can overcome that and come up to a point where he's at least average or slightly above average. We know that he's not a guy that can put the cape on and carry the team. JSN is a big factor to why he's doing so well. And but we're going to see. I think we're going to see how it turns out in the playoffs for them. Jaguars, Cardinals. Ooh, this is going to be an interesting game because the Cardinals aren't that bad of a team. The record isn't as bad as it could be, or as it potentially should be. I feel like they're more along the lines of like a 4-5 team, 5-5, somewhere around there, like close to 500. There's just too much stuff against them. Their defense is really good. They can be really stingy at times. They can really put it on you, and can make it difficult. Now their offense, they definitely have a stud in Marvin Harrison Jr., right? So he is definitely a stud, and with Jacoby Brissett being able to give more consistency quarterback play from them, more willing to play for the win, unlike Kyler Murray, where he seems to try to play not only to win, but to be the guy that is the reason for winning, right? So no surprise that this is a bit of an interesting game, that the Cardinals might be giving it a little bit of a hard time for the Jaguars here. I know the Jaguars are coming off a big win last week, but they're they're a new system. They got a new coach. They're bringing in the Mike Shanahan tree, KOC, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay kind of tree line, which is why it seems very similar when I watch their games to when KOC took over. They do a lot of good things, but I see a lot of those mishaps when they're communication areas. Sometimes they revert to old muscle memory, and sometimes they don't look as great as they are. But I think the record kind of reflects what they are as a team. They're slightly above average team and on their way to becoming a team that potentially could be something special in the future. We'll see how Liam Cohen does and his coaching staff at, I don't know about fixing, maybe we can call it retooling Trevor Lawrence and kind of making him fit towards his system, and hopefully Trevor Lawrence buys into it and they can develop into something special here. I'm going to take the Jaguars in this game. I know it smells a little bit of a trap game here for the Jags because the Cardinals can do a lot of things, and if that defense makes it a close game, it might end up being one of those situations where Jacoby Brissett comes out looking like a hero, like he did against those Cowboys, right? But I still think that the Jaguars have just a little bit more than the Cardinals, so I'm going to bank on that, and I'm going to take the Jaguars in this one. Next, we got the Browns versus the Raiders, 2-8 teams. It's no secret. I've been saying that the Raiders, I feel like, are also a team that's got a lot of talent and raw potential. Of just suffering with injuries, and it's a bit of a rough start for this new era of the Pete Carroll era, we can call it, right? But we have seen some flashes, right? Week 1, they put it on the Patriots and beat them soundly for a bunch of yards. We saw Michael Myers, Alshon Jenti rushing for a ton of yards and 3 touchdowns one game. And we've also seen Geno Smith throw for a bunch of touchdowns, right? So, like, when Geno Smith has a bunch of time, he can definitely get it done. Right now, that's going to be quite difficult because the Browns have one of the best pass rushes and defenses in football. So I think they can be the ones that can really make this an ugly game. Now, Shedeur Sanders is going to get his first start. And, I'm not going to be like anybody else. All the pundits and all the people calling Shedeur Sanders garbage or anything like that. I just think that this young man, I feel bad for him, because I feel like he's got potential. I think he might be able to elevate his gameplay and develop into a decent starter. I don't know if he's got all-time potential, legendary, elite potential, but could he be a very good quarterback in this league? Potentially, yes. But I just think it's one of those situations that the team that he's on just just doesn't believe in. I've been really upset at the fact of how Kevin Stefanski in this organization has treated him. I feel like they should have, tried a little bit more with him, maybe allowing him to run the practice squad. A lot of people are going to push back and say, well, if he's not good enough to run the practice squad, then why should he? But, well, how is your, newly rookie quarterback supposed to develop if you don't even give him the chance to develop? If he's just on the sidelines in practice and doesn't actually get any reps or any real work to actually start looking like an NFL caliber quarterback. This week he's going to get a full week of practice with the ones and getting used to his cadence, all that fun stuff. And I just don't know if this season he's going to be able to do a lot, especially with when you have your own organization working against you. I don't think it's the players, because I feel like the players are going to rally behind whoever is behind their quarterback, just like any good professional football player would do. But I think it's like the coaching staff, the organization. I feel like it's such a disservice, and I feel bad for the kid because I would much rather him get to a team that is more willing and ready to let him become something, or at least try to become something, and at least get a shot. So then we know, hey, he went through the gambit. He played 16 games. He played 32 games. He got 2 full seasons. And now we know one way or another. And I just don't think the Browns are that organization. So I really feel bad for him. I hope somebody trades for him, or at the very least they cut him and he signs somewhere and he actually gets to a good place where he can actually start his NFL journey. A lot of people are going to talk about how, he's not that great of a locker room guy. He's terrible in the press conference, whatever. I don't care about that. What I care is that he gets a fair shot. That's what matters to me, and I don't think he's going to get it with the Browns, unfortunately. Now, the Raiders, like I'm saying, this is going to be an interesting game. It's going to probably be a defensive output here. I don't know if So I think that the Raiders defense is good enough to fluster a rookie Shedeur Sanders, and we might see some interceptions and whatnot, but I'm not too concerned about that. I just want to see him out there and getting reps and see what he can do. I think the Raiders are a good enough team to where they're going to make it difficult for him, and he's not going to be, going out against the Titans or anything like that. We're just going to overinflate his ego. He needs a little bit of a challenge, and I think the Raiders are going to give it to him. I'm going to go ahead. This is a coin flip. Let's be real. I'm going to bank on Alshon Jenti and Geno Smith, that combo, better than Judkins and Shedeur Sanders. And those four guys are going to be the deciding factor here. I think both defenses are going to make it difficult on each other's offense. And so it's not going to be one of these offensive outputs where Shedeur goes off for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. And I don't think Geno Smith is going to go off for the same, 450 and 4 touchdowns, one with the legs and all. I don't think it's going to be that type of game for either team. I think it's just going to be, a slobber knocker, if you will, in this game. But it's a bit of a coin flip, so I'm going to flip the metaphorical coin flip. I'm going to take the Raiders here on a slight small advantage on top of them being at home and the Browns traveling. So maybe that plays a small factor. Maybe that's enough to get the win, but I really wouldn't be surprised if the Browns got a win. Hey, if Shedeur Sanders gets his first win and he looks half decent, I'm going to be extremely happy for the kid, because I did not, when he was going through his draft slide, I did not make a video, crucifying him or talking trash, because I think that's bad form. the kid's a young kid. We were all young and dumb. Some of us were arrogant. Some of us were shy. Some of us this, some of that. And regardless of what you think of the kid, I think it's kind of disrespectful or ignorant to be kind of throwing shade or mocking the kid for something that he has that he really had no control over, right? So it is what it is. And I'm going to take the Raiders in this one. Moving on to the Eagles versus the Cowboys. Now we got a pretty solid offense in the Cowboys, as well as the Eagles with a massively good defense, right? So I don't think this game is going to go where a lot of people think. Some people are going to go ahead and think that the Cowboys might just be able to run on it or run away with it because they're going to have an offense that's more productive throughout over the season in comparison to the Eagles. The Eagles have like 0 passing yards in one half, -1 in the other, have put up snore fests against teams that they should have definitely ran away with it. But when the Cowboys face a really, really good defense, their offense definitely shrinks. This might be one of those race to 17, race to 24 kind of games. And I just don't think the Cowboys are going to be able to overcome the Eagles defense. And as a result, I think it's going to be a bit of a slow game. And I'm going to take the Eagles in this one. I don't know, 17-12, 17-14, 21-17. 24-14, something like that. Not a crazy massive performance by the Eagles, but a dominant defensive performance, and I think the Eagles are going to easily take this one as well. Moving on to the Saints versus Falcons, the last 4:25 p.m. Eastern game, Falcons versus the Saints. Now, the Falcons are definitely a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde team. They're on a roller coaster as well. Some weeks they look really bad. Some weeks they look really good. Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson are absolute studs. And at one point in the season, Bijan Robinson was definitely on pace to make history. I don't know if he's still on that pace, but they can definitely put it on some teams. And if they run the ball hard against the Saints defense, it might be a little bit too much for the Saints. We got Tyler Show coming in, making his, I believe, his third or second start of the season. He's starting to look a little bit better. I know he's still a little bit rusty here being a rookie and whatnot, but the Saints are who they are. They have a decent roster. Maybe some might say that they just need more of a retooling or a competitive rebuild instead of a full-on rebuild. But, Alvin Kamara is still a guy. He's still a dude. He can definitely come up away with some nice plays here. So I think it's going to be a little bit closer than people expect. I think a lot of people are going to think that the Falcons are definitely going to run away with this one, but I don't think it's going to be like that. I feel like it's going to be another one of those games where I think the Falcons and the Saints are going to make a game of it, but I feel like it's going to end up being like 27-24, 27-21, 24-17, something like that. Falcons coming away with the win here and affecting their draft stock. Moving on to the Buccaneers versus Rams for the Sunday night game. The Buccaneers are traveling to LA. The Rams are definitely my number one team on my power rankings this week. And it's looking like Matthew Stafford hasn't lost a step. A lot of people, I think people are almost ready to make that mistake that they made with Tom Brady, where they're like, this is the year where he falls off. But you know what? He keeps on beating father away with a stick here. Matthew Stafford is having one of his best seasons of his entire career. The Rams defense is extremely good. They're at home. The Buccaneers are a wily team. I would not be surprised if I see some heroics now that they're becoming healthier and healthier and they actually make it a good game of this. I still feel, though, that regardless of the heroics, I feel like the Rams are going to come away with a decisive win here. Might be a little bit of a higher scoring game, be like 31-27, 34-27 Rams. But like I said, I would not be surprised if the Buccaneers come away with some late game heroics, coming away with a winning drive to come up with a walk-off field goal or walk-off touchdown and really upset the Rams here. But I can't in good conscience because I think I live and die by the sort of probabilities here, and I feel like the Rams have a higher probability to win this week. Going on to the Monday Night Football game, we got the Panthers versus the 49ers, and I think this is a little bit of a can we call this a revenge game for the Panthers after they traded away Christian McCaffrey? they were probably kind of thinking that, oh, his wheels are about to fall off. He's going to be super injured and he's not going to be able to do the things that he used to be able to do. And so we got to move on from him before he totally makes us look bad. But man, was that a bad decision on their part? Christian McCaffrey. But, with all that being said, they've definitely rebuilt a little bit of a decent team. Rico Dowdle is definitely a guy. He's doing a lot of great stuff in the backfield, but they're definitely an inconsistent team that's kind of still learning and growing through the adversity that they face every single week. 49ers are a team that over the last few years, they've literally seen the gamut of every little bit of adversity that you could face. They've lost starters. They've had games where the other team really takes it to them and steal games when they should have won. All the different myriad of different adversity that they could face, and as a result, they're a battle tested team. That's why a few weeks ago when they faced the Giants, a lot of people were like, oh man, who's going to be this bit of a coin flip? And I was like, I don't know about that. I feel like although the Giants can really take it and they have a lot of potential, the 49ers are a team that have the ability to overcome adversity. And they have that skill set where the Giants didn't. And this is the same situation where when the timing is going to get tough in this game, the 49ers are going to find ways to overcome and take a lead or extend the lead, where in those exact same situations, I feel like the Panthers are definitely going to wilt or come up short. That's why I'm going to take the 49ers on Monday Night Football. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a fun game as well. I don't think it's going to be a total snore fest, a whole 10-7 kind of game. Brock Purdy's definitely going to put up some points. I think the Panthers are going to definitely do a great job here. Bryce Young coming off a career game. And something like 27-24, 49ers is, I think, how this game is definitely going to turn out. So it's going to be a fun week of football, and hopefully now that the season's starting to become more easier to read, I think that my picks going forward are going to be a lot better. And I'm excited to keep this trajectory going. So don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, guys. I really appreciate all you guys for stopping by and hanging out with me today when I go over these weekly picks. I've been going a little bit quick here because I do have date night here with the missus here. So I had to bounce here. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next one.